Guys, welcome in. We have on the other side here, you might look to the left or right. I don't know which side of the screen he's going to come up on, but this is Mr. Luke Palmer, and Luke is a Bassmaster Elite angler. I did a little research on him, and I found out some really cool little things. One, we met at ICAST, and he was at the Gill booth, did a really nice talk up about Gill, talked, and I got a good video coming out that you'll be able to see on our YouTube channel. And, he's just a heck of a speaker, heck of a guy as far as tournaments, talking about fishing and everything else. So I thought, man, what a great guy to have on here. Let's get a young gun up here and get him on here. But this guy's got on the Elite Series has won, or not won, but he has participated in 39 different tournaments. He's got 36 of those he's cashed a check at. He's made 2 classic appearances. That's a pretty darn good stats right there. I don't know. I can't remember how many years is it say you've been fishing the Elites now?
This was my 3rd year this year.
So in 3 years, you've had 2 classic appearances.
Yeah. And we made our 3rd one this year. So,
and so 3 out of 4, huh?
Yeah. So
that's a pretty good
stat. Yeah. It's not too bad. I hope to keep that stat going for the rest of my career, however long it's going to last.
Well, for all of you watching right now, he's actually sitting at work. So he took some time out here. His uncle was behind us. He'll probably pop back in and out of there. So those on the podcast, you're not going to see it. So just don't worry about it. But he's back there. So he's at work at CNC Hardware down there in Colgate, Oklahoma, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Colgate, Oklahoma.
So he's going to be coming on, and we're just talking right now. We're going to see if we can't help you guys become a little better anglers. I mean, see if we can get you out there competing with this guy. Probably not, but we'll give you something to do on the weekend when you're out there fishing. So
I don't need him to come in and start whooping up on me. Geez.
Well, you don't have to give away all your secrets, but if you give us 1 or 2, we probably appreciate it, right?
Yeah, we can do that. I don't know how many secrets I have. I think mine's simplicity is my problem. So.
Well, that's all important stuff to know. That's one of the things I was going to ask you right off the bat is, what keeps you so consistent? I mean, that's 39 with 36 cash and a check. That's consistency right there. I mean, I don't know how you goofed off the other 3, but that's take it for what it is, right?
Yeah. And what's bad is those 3 or so that I missed were tournaments that I was dialed like, boy, this is my time. And then it was like, no, this is not your time. I'm going to show you that it's not. So, but you're going to have those days. And I had 3 of those bad days. So we'll take them.
Yeah. I'll tell you, for only 3 years, but so give us that. What is your secret to your consistency? What do you really focus on when you hit the water?
I think it comes back from being here in Oklahoma where we have some good fisheries, no doubt. I mean, but they're not the greatest fisheries where we don't have schools of fish, I guess you'd say. Everybody talks about these ledge lakes where you pull up on a point or something, you got a school of 100 sitting out there. If you pull up to a point in Oklahoma and you catch 2 fish off of it, you better back off of it because that's probably the best point you're going to see all day. It's just because it's just like we're such grinders. I normally sometimes 5 to 7 bites a day in a tournament. And I try to hit some of that off the wall stuff that maybe someone's not going to look at because they're only going to pick up 1 fish, where 1 fish is a big deal to me. You got 4, you need that 1 more in that 5th one. And that's the way I look at it. I take 1 fish at a time. I'm not going to try not to get in too big of a hurry because if you do, you're going to miss something. But just keeping your head down and keeping your bait in the water has been what has helped me these few years. Because back when I was coming up fishing team tournaments with my dad, I would hit 20 to 40 spots a day, running around hitting 1 stick here, 1 stick there, a boat dock or something, and pick up 6 or 7, 8 fish a day. And that was just kind of how I fished. So I kind of had to learn to calm down a little bit once I got on the elites, because those guys find every one of those little sticks or boat docks that have a fish on it. You just you gotta have enough of them, but you also got to be able to fish an area out. And that's kind of what I've been doing more is when I get to an area, putting the trolling motor down and fishing, because you can't catch them when you're running down the lake 70 mile an hour in your Phoenix. I mean, it's hard to do it, but it helps you get there faster. but you got to put your head down and fish.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting to think, you know, because you take Oklahoma where you're fishing a lot, and then you kind of take that across the country and you see these different fisheries for the first time, you know, and I recently, you know, going down to Mississippi, going down to Florida and fishing those waterways down there. It was, I'm from California. I'm out here in Northern California, and you know, they're talking, hey, we got some deep water we're going to be fishing down here. We got some little areas where we're going to get into some deep water, and we pull up, and I'm running the trolling motor, and I'm sitting over here going, I can't find the deep water, guys. I mean, it's like 8-9 feet. They're like, and you're in it. I'm like, what are you talking about? 8-9 feet. I'm 50, 80, 150 feet is what I fish, and they're talking about that. But as you take that across the country, and you go from Oklahoma, Alabama, you know, all the way up. That was yours.
That was me.
All the way up, you know, you start to see these different waterways. How do you really approach a waterway when you get to it? You know, you look at it. I looked at some of those waterways in Florida, and I was like, you know, we're in 4 feet of water, right? It's like, yeah, we got lots of water. Oh, okay. I mean, I don't understand. I had to learn how to break that down. You know, a brush pile to them is, like you said, 4 sticks sticking up, and they're going, yep, this is a good brush pile right here. Yeah. I have no idea what to do with that.
You know, and I think what was really, which I had never fished out of Oklahoma very much when I first started going. But we have some good variety. The only thing we don't have in Oklahoma is submergent grass, hydrilla, stuff like that. So the first time I ever seen hydrilla was I went to Ross Barnett. Didn't know what eelgrass looked like, didn't care about it. And I had to learn real quick and in a hurry how to fish it. But we do have, I say we don't have any grass like that. We have coontail, which grows in 2 foot or less pretty much, you know, because we have a lot of dirty water here. But I had to revert back to my pond fishing. You know, I grew up fishing ponds and, you know, little bitty lakes, you know, 50 acres and less, and fishing stand and timber, stuff like that. And they really helped me. But then you get up there to smallmouth and you got 4 mile an hour current and you're lost as a goose. That's taken some time, and I'm still not completely comfortable with it. But I think it reverts back to me being so simple with what I have in my boat. You can get in my boat and think, boy, this guy's going to have all these cool tricks, you know, old school baits, new stuff coming out. And you get in my boat and I got like 3 colors of each bait in my boat. And I'm comfortable with those baits. And I know green pumpkin purple is going to catch them. I know black and blue is going to catch them. And, you know, a white or something like that. So you can kind of take those 3 colors and go from New York to Florida. Haven't been to California. They probably don't eat that out in California, but you know, that's about the only place I haven't been that I can catch them on those certain colors, and just doing what feels right to you. I mean, it kind of sounds cliche, I guess. But if you know how to fish grass, go find you some grass to fish, you know, and then you can at least eliminate that. If you can't catch them out of that, then, you know, I'm from Oklahoma where we fish rock a lot. I mean, we got rocks, and then sand, and an occasional brush pile and dock mixed in. But, you know, if like Champlain, I'm not a very good grass fisherman because we don't have grass. So I went and fished rock. I mean, that's the only thing. Will, he got to experience that. I fished rock and more rocks a day that he was with. So he was probably getting tired of looking at the same spot forever because we stayed in the same area or 2 all day. But that's where I had confidence at, and that's where I was going to try to do it, regardless of where I'm at. St. Lawrence River still has my number because them smallies up there are a little bit different. I'm kind of mad at them. I'd like to go spend about a week up there and learn how to catch them, but you know, you got to get back to work every now and then, pay the bills.
So that kind of leads me into it. So what is one of your favorite tactics? I mean, if you're coming from Oklahoma, you're doing all. What's your deal that you feel like, you know, hey, this is what I love to do?
I love to take 60-pound sunline braid and a 7/6 whammy stick. And I throw a bad mama. That's one of my favorite flipping baits from Yum. I mean, that's my deal. I mean, I can either throw it on a 1.25 ounce punching weight, or I can put it on a 1/4 ounce weight and go flip bushes or lay downs, or bed fish with it, because that bait falls more like a tube than it does a beaver bait, which is kind of cool. But I've won a lot of money since I've been on the elites. I imagine probably 50% of my money's been on that bait. Gunnersville's been one of those places that has been really dominant for me, because I can put a punching rod in my hand and go to work in that grass. And I mean, the first classic that I fished was at Gunnersville, and I was on a podcast with a guy, and he said, Luke, he said, it was in Oklahoma, and he said, we don't have grass in Oklahoma, and you went punching in a classic. How do you do? So, man, that's the only way I could get bit, that I felt that I could do well in that thing. And I said, well, I went punching, and it was at the Bad Mama, and that's I ended up 15th in that one, which wasn't terrible, I didn't think, but just I felt confident in that bait, and it's kind of rolled on since then for me.
Okay. So, I was just going to ask you what's your moneymaker, but apparently that's your moneymaker too, huh?
I put that dinger is really, we throw a stick bait a lot in Oklahoma. But that dinger, I've really learned to use it. I didn't know what a wacky worm was until I got on the elites. I'd heard of it, but I was like, I don't have that stuff around here. And I've got to use it quite a bit. And just, Texas rigging a dinger in Florida is the deal. I mean, you can catch on that year round down there. And but those two baits have really been my major players for me since I've been on the elites.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you get a chance, you got to learn out to get you out here to California, because if you like flipping, boy, there's some flipping out here.
I've been wanting to. I've got a buddy who's from here. He's one of my best friends. He was out in California fishing Casitas, Castaic, and all them, and he said, you need to go out there and try it.
Yeah, you need to go north when you do, though. Get out of that southern water. Come up north here. We'll get you on there. We got the Delta, we got Clear Lake, we got all these lakes that are just chock full of grass, and flipping and pitching is so much fun up here. So you really got when you're traveling, we kind of look at it as, you get out there and you start fishing these different waterways. Is there one thing that you kind of look at when you go to any new waterway or any new lake or any place you're going, as guys, that's one of the biggest things I think guys, struggle with is what's that go-to, or what do you really like to look at first? I mean, do you look at the structure first? Do you look at the bait first that you can, feed them? How do you start to break down a lake as you get out there and start fishing any new body of water?
I mean, I'm going to go, look at the time of year, whether pre-spawn, post-spawn, summer, whatever we're kind of looking at, which for us in elites, we're primarily going to be pre-spawn, spawn, or post-spawn. Right. We're not going to be in too late of a summertime pattern, but next year we're going to be a little bit later in the year. But I'll kind of look at that first, and then I'm going to look, what is the primary structure in that lake? I'm going to sit down, set my boat, and I pull up my maps on my, I'm running Hummingbirds, Lake Master, and I can run through, and I'm going to mark several different areas that I feel are going to be highly productive, or higher productive areas. Search those out, and I've kind of got to where the point, I will give since we have normally 3 days, I will give myself 2 days, say toward the top third or the bottom third or middle third. I'll give myself a day in each of those, and then I'll go back to those and expand in that area that I felt was more productive than the other one, because some of these lakes are so big, you have to figure out one area. You can't be running from one end to the other, because you're going to be running too much. And that goes back to keeping your trolling motor in the water and fishing instead of running around so much. Because to me, if you get to run around too much, I mean, yeah, you can pick up fish here and there, but when you start following those groups, because we've got to fish some good group areas that have groups of fish, and you can kind of figure out those sweet spots amongst those areas and get more in tune with where those fish are going or what they're doing or moving in or out. But just
We've paired one of the most iconic hulls in the history of bass boats with a proven lineup of trusted accessories. We're bringing you best-in-class value and performance, leaving others in your wake. Turnkey value, turnkey performance. The Pantera 2 is an overachiever in the 19-foot category. Once you hit the throttle, you'll feel the rush, and there's no looking back.
It's really, it seems like I've been doing more work before I get to the lake here in the last year and a half than I have the first year. When I first got there, it was, I got to make 3 laps around this lake before I figure out what's going on, which that was just being new. You know, I'm getting a couple more years on me now and noticing that there's fish in just about every part of the lake you go to. It's figuring out where those fish are in that creek or bay or, you know, wherever you're at.
Right.
And it's and also it's what you feel comfortable doing. You know, I like to go flip, or you might like to throw a crankbait. You know, find an area of the lake that suits that style of fishing better. You know, I'm going to be more of a creek or a bay area fishing, or you're going to be more of a point or a riprap guy. Look for those areas that go with your confidence baits, and I think that'll help you when you get to a new lake. Figure out, it helps you eliminate one thing real quick. Either you can catch them flipping or you can't. You know, so I mean that's one thing out. So okay, now I can go try my drop shot or my shaky head or, you know, crankbait, whatever you need to go do, and it just helps eliminate one thing, get it out of your head anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you, I mean, that's always important, you know, go to your strengths, stick with your strengths right off the bat. But at what point do you just go, this ain't working? I mean, I've got to, you know, because it's, you got, you know, especially you guys on the elites, you really have, you know, such a short, I mean, 3 days seems like a lot of time. It's not. It's not a lot of time. Guys are like, oh, if I could fish 3 days, I could fish any lake, figure any lake out. It's like, that's just not true. But at what point do you go in there and you're just like, you know what, I'm going to Guntersville and I'm flipping and I'm punching and I'm, you know, I'm doing these things, and you get there and it's like, okay, I've got to figure something else out. At what point does that, you know, is it like no longer, hey, I know I can get them to eat this, I just got to find the right spot, and switch up to, I can't get them to eat this, I got to go figure out what the heck they're doing? Is it the first day, second day, third? I mean, where does that really kind of start to work with you?
Since after my first year, you brought up Guntersville. That's a perfect example this year. When we were there, was it May, whenever it was, I had preconceived notion, punching rod. I had 2 of them rigged up. I'm going to go flipping and I'm going to throw a topwater. And in the first 3 hours, I'd had 2 bites and my head was going 900 mile an hour. And I had a jerk bait tied on. I told my buddy before I left here from Colgate, one of my best friends, I said, I want to catch him on a jerk bait. I said, I had never caught him in a jerk bait at Guntersville. And about noon that day, I picked up a jerk bait, and it was like Katie bar the door after that. But that was some experience too with that lake, because that's the 3rd time I'd been there. So I kind of had an idea of that. But normally, it's not good for me, because it seems like I fall upon or stumble on a pattern pretty early, and I run and find everything that will go with that pattern, and instead of finding a secondary, which is sometimes bad and good. It seems like it runs out before the tournament normally, but I'm normally going to give it at least a half a day. You know, I'm going to run it in different areas in the lake. But if you're not getting bit at all, right, you know, you can kind of pull the plug pretty quick normally.
So basically what you're saying there is that you go out there and say, hey, I'm going to throw this rip bait. I know this rip bait's going to work. You start catching them on a rip bait in this spot. And now you're like, okay, I've got 3 fish here. I need to go find other parts of the lake or other places to break and say, okay, now I need this rip bait to work in other places, because if it's only working here, that's nothing. I need it to work in 5 different places, because somebody might find this spot also, right?
Oh yeah. You got to have multiple. I mean, sometimes if you're in a big area, it's okay to have 1 or 2 areas, but normally you're going to have to find these several high spots or shell beds or something like that to go along with what you're doing. At Guntersville this year, I think I had probably 25 areas They were small, but they were just, half a football field size areas that had fish located in them. And it was a matter of, and there was, in each one of those spots, there was 2 or 3 sweet spots. So that, and you find that as you're fishing too, throughout the days. But it was, and like at Champlain, for instance, when you go up there, you're going to have a drop shot tied on. I mean, that you're going to have that tied on. You're going to have your jerk bait, top water. And if you like to go flip grass, you can go flip grass. Or heck, you can fish docks. It just, it's just kind of, that's a pick your poison lake there. You can do anything you want to up there, which is kind of neat. But trying to get it initially figured out can be very, very tough, especially if you're on a lake like we are in Oklahoma. I'm saying they're tougher fisheries. I don't think we have the populations of fish like you do in Gunnersville or these lakes with grass or Champlain. Hell, there's millions and millions of fishing per acre at Champlain, it seems like. Right. But I think it's if you don't get bit, even by small fish, it makes it a lot tougher. And you kind of have to know your fishery, know if it's taking 25 pounds a day, you better be having to figure something out pretty quick. Where if it's taking 15, 16 pounds a day, you might have to keep rotating your pattern a little bit throughout the lake and before you pull the plug and say, this is not capping.
Right. Yeah, that's a really interesting thing that I think a lot of guys look at too, is at what point, you make that statement, but at what point during tournament do you just start saying, hey, you know what I need to do? I need to make some points. and when you're talking about the St. Lawrence, having your number, and you're talking about, Champlain being as tough as it was what, 19, everybody kind of figured it was going to take 17, 18 pounds to do something. And it ended up being almost 20 pounds a day to do something up there. And, guys going, oh man, yeah, you can catch 15 pounds. I mean, you can sneeze and catch 15 pounds. And you just had to find that next fish. At what point are you fishing a tournament and you're just like, you know what I need to do? Get some points. Cause I've got to catch I know I'm not going to win this thing. There has to be a point where you just go, I'm not winning. I need to do something else. Scrap it all. What is that in your mental state when you're out there? Where does that kind of play in?
It kind of that happened to me at St. Lawrence this year. Going into the final tournament, I was setting pretty good to make the classic. I didn't need a bomb. I did not need a 90th. Right. I needed to finish 70 and above, and I was okay. Right. And I did the drifting out there on the shoals and drifted. And my head was about to explode because I was thinking, I have got to figure this out. And guys are catching them out there doing it. You're not catching as many, but they're catching good ones. And I picked up a jerk bait, went caught some fish, and it kind of gave me a little bit of confidence. And I knew it was going to be one out in the lake. If I'd have been sitting in the top 10 in points, I'd have probably ran to the lake and took my chances. But I knew that I could also go out there and blank because I don't know the lake as well. If the wind blows 30 mile an hour one day, you can't go to the lake unless you're going to try to kill yourself. And that just wasn't in my deal. And I found a couple little areas that had a bunch of fish and just said, if I can catch me 15, 16 pounds a day, I'm going to make the classic. Because when you're out of the angler year points, right, the classic's all that's in your head. I mean, that's all you can think about because I'm starting to figure out that classic's pretty big deal. You got to make it. I mean, that's the show. I mean, it's and it's a lot of fun. But when you and sometimes those fisheries that you don't know as well are the things that you can stumble upon and don't realize that you have a gold mine under you. And because you maybe just fish an area a lot harder than you would if you thought you had everything figured out.
Right.
But it's hard to just go fish for a few extra points because you want to, but you can go look at statistics over and over again. Van Dam's won more tournaments than I'll ever fish probably. And look how many years he's been fishing compared to how many he's won. Right. When Polnick, look at him, his greatest. I mean, he's a hell of an angler and good everywhere. And he's won 4, 5, 6 times, whatever it is.
Right.
And when it happens, it just happens, so you fish as hard as you can. And if it happens, it happens. If it don't, you dang sure don't want to bomb. You just got to keep your head above water. I was with Hackney. First time I ever met him, I did a show with him down in Texas. And we were talking, and he said something that kind of intrigued me, I guess. He said, how'd you do last year? And we just got to talking, and I said, I've just been trying to make every cut I can make. And he said, that's the main thing you got to do. He said, if you can get to where you consistently make cuts, he said, you'll be able to make it in this league. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot easier said than done, I can guarantee you, because these guys everybody gets better every year. Yeah. I mean, I'm better than I was the first year. I feel like I was a little more versatile. I have a spinning rod in my boat now. So that's the kind of interesting deal. And you learn, everybody learns, every time you go on the water, it doesn't matter if you're going to fish in a farm pond or a lake or a tournament, just learn something every time you're out there. Be open-minded. It's hard to do sometimes, mm-hmm. but be open-minded to what you have in front of you and just go with what you got.
Yeah, we all get stuck in our, hey, I love to do this, I love to do that. And you go out and want to push it and force feed those fish. And learning how to listen to the fish, listen to what they're telling you, and I think that's basically what most of those guys are out there. Then they do so well is that, guys like Hackney, I've watched him fish, and I've seen how different, and he loves throwing that swim jig. He loves throwing those things, but every once in a while, he'll sit there and go, I can't get him to bite this. So he doesn't stop fishing. He just says, but I can get him to bite this, and I think that's what separates, the level you're fishing from the level that other, most weekend anglers are going out and doing. They like to, they get kind of caught up in their everyday thing. And that's what, here we're trying to give you that little extra, hey, listen to these guys, because this is what they're telling you that is working on a, this higher level. And one of those is listen to the fish sometimes and really pay attention to how the water's, setting up. And like you said, if this is what you do, fish your strengths first. And if those aren't working, figure something else.
Yeah. And the thing I've dealt with, I haven't got to fish back home here very much. I think me and my dad have fished 3 or 4 tournaments, and we used to fish 25 or 30 a year together. And we fished, like I said, 3 or 4 in the last 3 years. But I was so conditioned to how I was fishing back then. I was a spot guy. I said fishing 20 to 40 spots. Well, I had 20 to 40 specific banks or docks or rock piles that I was fishing. And regardless if I practiced and caught a fish there, I was still going to hit it in the tournament because I was listening to my past. I wasn't exactly fishing how I should have at the moment. And, you can do well in a lot of tournaments because of that. But it seems like those guys that just, they would do decent in tournaments, but in the 2-day tournaments, they would excel because they would fish. They weren't fishing spots. They were fishing locations of the fish or what, the actual mood of the fish, where I was fishing, running all over like crazy and hitting little spots, and they would pull up and they'd fish an area and where the fish were instead of fishing for 1 or 2 fish like I was. And that's a hard thing to get out of, because when you fish the same lake over and over, it kind of gets monotonous. Right. That's what I've kind of been. I'm going to get to fish a little bit with my dad here this fall, which is going to be good. And I'm glad because I'm going to get to bring back some stuff that I've done on elites and some different fisheries, how to fish current a little bit better. So I think it's going to help. And it's going to give me a fresh mindset to us going out and fishing the lakes that we've always fished together. And I think that'll really help, because just keeping a fresh mind is hard to do, because when you go to the lake, you want to go catch fish. Even though you've worked all week on Saturday, Sunday, whatever you get off to go fishing, right, you don't really want to go look to find new spots. You kind of want to go catching. It's hard to just go fishing around. You want to go catching, and that's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Because trust me, I don't like just fishing around. I like to go catch something every now, especially when you work 60 hours a week. So you want to go and enjoy it.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's why that's why we go out to do it, is just to have fun. And As much as people go, it's not about the fish, it's not about catching. Horse bucky, it is too.
Yeah, I guarantee it is. I ain't never seen anybody happy when they came home and hadn't caught a fish all day.
Well, I went out there and blanked. That was a fun day, you know. We just left ICAST, and you're out there. You saw a lot of the same stuff I did. Anything really catch your eye? Anything new coming out that you want to tell people? It's like, dude, you got to go check this thing out because it's impressive.
I'm probably gonna say I'm partial to it, but it's Gill.
It's
the Gill stuff. I mean, I got their stuff on right now. I literally wear their apparel in everyday life, not just fishing, not just I'm gonna go work Cal later, and it's just that's it. I mean, it's part of my everyday life now.
Is that Gill's new thing? They're coming out with Western wear. They're gonna come out with all the stuff for cowboys.
We might try it. I mean, they get into everything else. So, and it works. It holds up. So I'm gonna say product proven. But the Expel they came out with, we talked about it. About the get your blood, guts, sweat, everything off of them. That's going to be nice. I mean, especially, because fishermen, we're not always the most clean about things. I'm just going to say it like that. But, the rain suits have been awesome for me.
You're out there. And I mean, this is one of those sports that, we don't stop for anything except for lightning, and I think that's it.
That's about it. That's about it. Potential tornado. Don't worry about those. It'll go around us.
That'd be little extra wind. Never hurt nothing.
No, I didn't get to walk around as much as you probably did. I kind of had to work a little bit. It's just kind of overrated sometimes. But I enjoyed it. I got to meet a lot of people. Got to meet you guys. It was a lot of fun talking with y'all. Booyah's got a new jig coming out, swim jig that I've actually been using quite a bit, and it's got a little different head design on it. And that pond scum that's kind of a pain in the butt that gets on your head of your jig.
Oh, yeah.
It drives you insane. Well, how this is designed, it seems like it sheds it off of it a lot easier, and it'll come through that grass and stuff a little bit better. That
little slimy green stuff that can't get off of nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Except for this jig and the Excel. So
that's it. Yeah, Expel. Yeah, you can use that. That's all you got to have. If we could get some Expel on that jig skirt, there's no telling what could happen. We could
come right off.
Work it out probably. But that was a couple of the main things that I seen that that caught my eye. I mean, I was part of the Expel part, so it really caught my eye a lot. But those are the couple of things that I really liked. I mean, the Pradco booth, which, it's got Yum and Booyah and stuff like that.
Right.
They've got some really good kits coming out. They got like a dinger kit. It has everything in it to where I actually have one in my boat. That way, if I want to grab it and I can go pond fishing,
right.
It's got, sinkers, hooks, weights, and all the dingers that I throw. And it's right there in one set. You don't have to go buy a bunch of stuff that you might not necessarily need, or if you don't maybe not necessarily understand what you need, and it kind of breaks it down for you, and it shows you how to hook it up and everything on it. So that's good, for a beginner fisherman, especially. Like I said, I still got one. It's not all beginner stuff. But they had some good things come out through there. Their kits and everything, I said, have been good. And it's actually, they're not kits that are like, oh, they put this junk in there, stuff they didn't sell. Actually, all the stuff they got in their kits is everything that's in my boat. It's not just, like I said, it's not just hoopla stuff. It's actually stuff that works. So, and I enjoyed that. That's one thing. I mean, because I've seen kits that you look at and you're thinking, why in the heck would I buy that when I'm going to use one thing out of it? If you're for buying kits, if someone wants to do it. But that was the main two things I looked at. I really liked. Of course, Abu's got some new rod lineups coming out that I think people are going to like, especially for the price point of them too. Because you know how this stuff's getting so expensive on everything, and it's not just about going out and buying you a cheap combo anymore. Heck, you spend $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $800, $1,000 if you want to on them, and there has some combos around $100, which is going to be nice. So I think people can kind of afford to go out and go fishing.
Yeah, and that's important. You know, it is. I've said that many times. Is that, you know, if you're at a certain level, you know, you're going to want. I don't know. I look at it and I go, there's only certain techniques that I really need that super extra $400 rod that I have, you know, for this or that or the other. If I'm throwing a spinner bait, I probably don't need a $500 rod to tell me I got a bite, you know.
No, you could probably zoom one out there on a stiff rod if you wanted to.
Yep, I could probably be out there with something and just catch them, you know, and notice that, oh, look, there's a fish on my line. But yeah, it's one of those things that when you do start seeing some of these better quality, and they're coming, you know, I talked about this actually at the show, and that, you know, God, 20 years ago, holy moly. You know, G Loomis was the rod. I mean, there was no, if you wanted the best rod on the market, you wanted, you know, hey, this is what it is. It was G Loomis. There was no hands. Nobody would argue with that. It was top of the line. His best rods back then, when Gary was making them, his best rods back then are probably some of the medium rods now. You know, the technology is so much there. And it's important that people understand that just because you're paying $100 for a rod doesn't mean you're getting a horrible rod. You know, back then, if you paid, you know, $50 for a rod, you were getting a $50 rod. You know, and if you paid $400 for a rod, you were getting a $400 rod. You were getting a rod there was a difference. Nowadays, you pay $100, and I have a hard time sometimes picking up a $100 rod and going, what's the difference between this one and this one? Because it's guys that are fishing your level, guys that are fishing some of these other ones. Yeah, they feel it, they know it because they have it in their hand, you know, 800 hours in a year or whatever it is, and you feel it, you know it. But for the average guy, like you say, this combo coming out, it's a good rod, it's a good it's solid, you know, and you can have some confidence in it. So, you know,
do you know what was on my boat for last year and this year?
If you tell me an ugly stick, I gotta hang up.
No, I was throwing the white Veritasuses.
Right. I love those
$100 rod.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and I didn't have any problems with them breaking. And this year I did get some veracities. And they're lighter. But other than that, I was very pleased with the rod at $100, and I'm fishing for a livelihood other than working at the store.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that kind of, you know, I mean, it can be done. You know, it's not, you don't have to go out and, like you say, you don't have to go buy a $500 combo, you know, especially the average person. I sell rod and reels here at the store. And, you know, most everybody's going to go pond fishing and the small lakes, and you want to be able to go enjoy it. You don't have to, I mean, I've had several of them get the old tips shut up in the tailgates around here. But so if you did that to a $400 rod, you're going to stroke out. But I just think it's more important to if you go into a place, pick up you 2 or 3 rods, get what feels right for you. And, you know, I mean, if a guy, an average person around here, and I'm the average person too, I can go get a 7-foot medium heavy rod, and that will just about do everything you can for a guy fishing a pond, you know, or a small lake. You know, have you a couple of combos like that, and you're, you know, maybe you're not going to be able to throw crankbaits as good on it, you know, but your spinner baits, your jigs, worms, you know, stuff like that, you're good to go. So I really think that's don't overcomplicate it. You know, people they look on our deck, and I don't have 20 rods out because I can't do it. But like Brian knew, hell, you can't even walk out on his deck. He's got stuff all over the place. And I said, how do you keep these? Oh, I got them specific areas. I said, no, you don't. There's stuff everywhere. I couldn't do it. But, you know, keep it simple. I mean, I had a coach tell me one time back in high school, we were, and he said, baseball is just a kiss. And I said, what? Keep it simple, stupid. And that was kind of like what I've kind of done with my fishing, you know, when you kind of get out there and you get thinking way too hard. and just keep it simple and don't over stress about it.
Right. Yeah, that's always a tough one with everybody. They watch the shows or they watch this and this guy says that and that guy says this, and it is tough to get out there. But if you want to be a better angler, you just want to go out there and do it. It's keep it simple, keep it real, keep it, just do what you love to do first and then figure it out from there. Let me ask you this question, because this is a tough question I'm going to ask you, but it's everything going the way it is. You're on the elites right now, MLF, the way it's going, everything. What are you looking at in the future? What's your future hold? Are you looking to go to the pro side of that? Are you looking to go to of the MLF? Or are you looking to stick right where you're at the Bassmaster Elites?
You won't ever see me leave.
Okay.
I'm happy where I'm at. I really like the people of Bass. I mean, I'm friends with from the top to the bottom of everybody, and right. I'm kind of like that anyway. I try to get along with everybody, and I like I said, they've been good to me. I can't complain about them. When they say something's how it's gonna happen, that's the way it's gonna go. And and if we have a rule change or something, it's gonna be after the year's over with. We're all gonna sit down, and we the first 2 years we had angler meeting deal. We'd go to Birmingham and we'd eat, and everybody would kind of converse and talk, and then we'd have a meeting the next day from 8 to 5 and kind of talk about how things are going to go the next year, new people coming in, kind of get them the feel of it. And we have any concerns or whatever, let's talk about them right now. Let's get them figured out. That way we're all in one spot. And I enjoyed that. I really thought that was good. Because, when it comes down to it, everybody's there for, one goal. We're trying to make a living for ourselves there.
Right.
But it's kind of a team in a way also. It's in kind of a roundabout way, because each one of us has to be there or it doesn't happen,
right.
So, but I really think Bass has done a good job. I just want to go fishing. I mean, a lot of guys are worried about everything. I'm going to go fish as hard as I can every single day, try to provide what I can, and try to keep my sponsors happy with me. But in the end, it comes into that green or brown fish in me. It doesn't have to, I'm not going to get mad at you for you kicking my butt because you figured them out. Right. I can't get mad at you. That's my own fault. And I think that's where a lot of guys can get aggravated. It's not their fault they figured them out and you didn't. I mean, that's just something you got to do, and don't take it personal. I see that happen so much, especially in the tournaments I fished around here. Whether I won or got my teeth kicked in, me and my dad were the last ones to leave the tournaments. I like to sit around and BS with everybody. That was the part that I loved about it. Right. And I think it's kind of getting away from that anymore. I wish it would go back to the camaraderie and the fun part of it. I mean, everybody's consumed with all the other stuff going on outside. Hell, go back to talking to one another, instead of getting on Facebook or Instagram talking to each other. Just talk one-on-one.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, because I've had other interviews I've done with guys, and they often talk about that same thing, is that a lot of these tournaments have lost that heart, have lost the between the anglers. The anglers are just not, it's not as open as it used to be. It's not as brotherly. It's not as, family-ish as it has, because it's become somewhat of a business, and, more of a business and more of a sport that's trying to go to that. As this progresses, these sports, both, whether it's MLF or BASS or this one or that, whatever they are. Do you think that you'll ever, see this become a professional sport? And by professional sport, I mean, someone's going to give you a paycheck and say, hey, I need you out there fishing. I don't need you working at CNC. I need you out there fishing.
Basscat's legendary 20-foot platform has been paired with angler-approved accessories for 2021. From the working end of the bow to the command center and stern, this turnkey tournament-ready package comes loaded with features to enhance your on-the-water experience. The Puma FTD SP from Basscat is willing, able, and more than ready for your next adventure.
I don't know if it'll ever get to that. I mean, you're talking like if it got to where it was like Major League Baseball.
Yep.
Is that what you're kind of saying?
Buster Posey does not have to get up in the morning and go to work at the local tackle store and then go out on the weekend and try to win a tournament, you know?
Yeah. Now, I don't know if it ever will. And Swindle, we talked about it one time, and he said, if you don't have any, I don't know how he say it. It was like anything into the game, like any.
You don't have any skin in the game, basically?
Yeah, any skin in the game. If you don't have that in it, people can kind of get lax and not try as hard or not try to bust their tail. And I guarantee you, when I stick 5,000 up there for the entry fee, my butt is thinking about fishing. From the time I leave till the time I get home or when I'm on the water.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been back marking freight yesterday and today, and I've been watching Bassmasters. That's my kind. I can kind of listen and or podcast. I love listening and watching. But if it gets to that, I think it would be nice. I would love for someone to say, "Hey, here's X amount of dollars," and you're guaranteed a paycheck. Yeah. I mean, but your competitive nature.
Do you really think that would take the life out of it, though? I mean, honestly, if you talk about a basketball player, a baseball player, whatever, and it's like, do you really think that competitive drive is gone because someone gives them a paycheck to do it?
It wouldn't for me, because that's the reason I still fish. Because if I didn't have that competitive nature, I wouldn't fish tournaments. There's no way. There's too much stress involved for you to not love it. I could kind of see it happening though, because say if you're not having a very good year, you could kind of lay down. You're like, because it mentally is, having mental strength in this deal is, to me, is the main thing. Because if you don't, things can go downhill for you quick. I would hope guys wouldn't do that, but I could see if they had a bad attitude towards something, I could see them losing a little bit of hope in it, I guess you'd say. But I wish it would get to that point, though. I mean, that would be real nice.
Well, that's just like what you just said. It comes down to, and some of it kind of works into some of what we talked about earlier. Is if you are having a bad day, you're out there and it's like, man, I put in 3 days worth of pre-fish. I got out here and first day I'm 130th out of 135, and if you're getting paid, someone's paying that bill, and you're not worried about that 5,000 that you put up on the line because you don't have it. It's just paid for by somebody else. But I gotta think here. For me, I look at guys like Kevin Van Dam who are, I don't think he's probably putting it is his money, but it's probably not his money.
It's not hurting you.
He puts that 5,000 up there and he walks in and I'd say it's hard to say that guy gives any less effort than he's ever given. I mean, look at Rick Clunn. I mean, Rick Clunn is a classic example of that. I mean, this is a guy who's, I'm not going to say he's past his prime, but he's a little past his prime. But I'll tell you what, there ain't a young kid coming up right now that's going to step in front of Rick Clunn and say, "Oh yeah, you're out of it. Don't worry about it." That guy he'll do everything he can to keep it in.
He's out of the camper way before I am in the mornings. Yeah. I mean, Patrick Walters, he tries beating him to the ramp every day and he can't. He said, "I can't do it." He said, "It's just pointless." He said he's there. I mean, but he told me something the first year I met him. He said, I'll be up first every morning. He said, but at 5 o'clock, I'm putting it on a trailer. Yeah. He said, I had to learn to limit myself because down south, we don't get to fish as many hours because it doesn't stay daylight as many. But when you go to Champlain or St. Lawrence River, you can be on the water at 5 o'clock and not get off the water at 9:15.
Right.
That's, mentally, which I did it because, when you're not on them, you try to put every second you can possibly be out there. But you kind of do have to limit yourself because if you're dog tired by the tournament,
right,
you're not thinking as well mentally because you're not eating as well. You can eat as good as you want to on a lake, but it's still not sitting down for dinner, and letting your body rest. Because, you know, everybody said, boy, I bet it's fun to go fishing all day and not have to worry about nothing until they want to come out there and fish all day and not, you know, it's grueling, you know. I mean, it's a lot of stress on your body, and it's hard. You know, it's not like football or baseball where I mean, I'm not saying it's not hard. I did the same. I played ball, you know, I know what you put yourself through, but it's for an hour and a half, 2 hours, not 14, you know.
Right.
And I think that's the misinterpretation of what we're doing. And the decision making, and just mentally, you have your mind has to be in the right stage, or you will get your teeth kicked in the NC guys.
Yeah,
100%.
that's, you know, I always think it's funny when people are, you know, talk about that, you know, it's, oh, you went fishing today. And it's like, yeah, you know, I had to go pre-fish for a tournament to get out there. And it's like, how long did you fish? And dark to dark, man. I pulled out, I pulled in the dark, I pulled out in the dark. And, you know, if you don't put the work in, sometimes it doesn't do it, especially, you know, like you said, the balance you've got to find. But when you're, you know, you're fishing a smaller tournament, you know, a bigger tournament, but a smaller tournament, you got to put the time in. It is. I mean, you're on the water that much, and you get guys who are, you know, the weekend anglers who go out there and say, yeah, I fished all day, and they fished from 9 a.m. till, you know, 2 o'clock, got off the water. Oh, a good day of fishing. And it's like, it's not, but that's not the work part. That's not guys who are doing it to try to get there for a living. It is a lot difficult.
Yeah. Me and that store, we work 5.5 days a week. Mm-hmm. So Sunday was our only day off, and me and Dad, we'd leave at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we'd get back in between 6 to 9 o'clock on Sundays, and then have to get up and go to work on Monday, you know, to, like you say, pre-fishing for the next week, you know, not even the next day. So it's definitely, you can go as much and as hard as you want to, you know, and everybody's different, you know. I mean, we love it, you know.
Yep.
You love fishing probably as much as I do. And
oh yeah.
It's, you know, what available time you have and how much time you actually want to do it on your available time is a hard thing to adjust and try to understand and get your chores done and all the other hoopla stuff around that you probably should be doing while you're fishing. But
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's, you know, like you say, you can take it at all the different levels you can and all the different ways you want to go at it, but it's the effort you put in and how much you do it and how much you truly want to, where you want to be, I guess, with it. You know, it's, I would love to see this become a professional sport. I'd love to see it. So, you know, where, and I always say, I don't think I'll see it, but I don't know at the same time. There's some guys I talked to at the ICAST who said, don't be surprised if it starts happening soon. You know, you've been on the circuit, you've been on this for 3 years. Give me something you can tell those, you know, because you're what, 30, 31, somewhere in that range?
Yeah, I'm 30. Yeah.
So you didn't get the advantage of seeing, you know, of having to fish on a high school team, fish on a college team, that sort of thing, like these new young kids coming up have. They've got this college, they've got the high school, they've got, you know, everything that they're coming out in. What's some pearls of wisdom you can give them to where, hey, if you're coming up here and you want to be on these circuits, you want to fish this circuits, you want to be at this level, do this now because you're going to need it when you get here?
I'm going to say the marketing side is a major role of it. I'm not wrong. You've got to catch them. That's no doubt. But learning the marketing side, you know, if you're able to take them in college, I mean, I know you can in college, but in high school, if you take some of that stuff for sure. I mean, I was there. The high school deal had just happened when I got out of school. The college deal, I'm about right there, Jordan Lee, that area. So it was happening, but Oklahoma, it wasn't that big of a deal. And plus, I was making more money fishing team tournaments than I could do in college. That's the reason I didn't do it. I wish I would have, because the publicity was there, and your connections would have helped out a lot too. But it's hard to say. I loved playing ball, basketball and baseball. I loved fishing. I knew that those two sports might pay for my college, but I knew that was going to be the end for me. And I made that decision when I played my last basketball and baseball game, that I stepped away and I said, fishing is going to be my main goal. I mean, it had been my goal, but I took off and really went to fishing hard. And just spending, it doesn't matter if you're going to a stream for an hour after school or after work, or if you're going to a lake or whatever you can do, spend as much time on the water as you can. I know everybody probably says that, but me and my dad, when we first started fishing together, he drove the first year. The second year, he would drive at takeoff because he didn't really want an 11-year-old kid probably driving 70-mile-an-hour boats around us. But after we get to the first spot, he put me on the trolling motor. He said, "You get after it, you make the decisions from now on." So we got our teeth kicked in for the next 6 or 7 years because, we fished. I had to fish against like Jeff Reynolds and Jeff Crete, and Edwin had just left by the time I got in, which didn't hurt my feelings too much. But but when I turned 18, I bought my first boat, and I was spending 3 or 4 days a week on the water. And we started doing well in tournaments, and were able to win Angler of the Year some here and there. And it went back to that time on the water that really helped me. Because when you're in tune with the fish, you know what's going on. It can make figuring them out a lot quicker for you. Like we talked about earlier, you can simplify the lake a lot quicker than making it so complicated about everything. And I think that's really what's done it for me. But stay confident in yourself. Don't get down. Even whenever things are a little bit tough, don't get down. Don't quit. Akinele says, never quit, never give up. And he was right on point with that. You can't, because I've won several tournaments in the last 3 minutes of fishing. So you never know what's going to happen, and have a shooter's mentality in basketball. If you miss a 3-pointer, don't say, well, heck, I'm going to miss the next one. You can do the same thing in fishing. If you miss a fish, forget it. It's over with. It's done. Go fishing. Don't quit on it. Don't give up, and just keep your head on. Keep your head straight. That's the hardest thing to do, I think, because it's a very, you're on the water for 8, 10, 12 hours. Your mind can stray off real quick. But stay true to yourself and keep your head down, and just never give up on it.
All right. Well, Luke, I think that's a great place to wrap it up right there. Thanks for coming on and doing this. We really appreciate it. This guy is out there. He's fishing hard. He is, by all things I can see, he's going to be one of the most consistent guys on tour coming up. He's going to be at this next classic. We hope you do very well there. Bass Angler Magazine, we really appreciate it. Lots of good information right here. A couple guys talking about some fishing, man, and I love that. So, Luke, thanks for coming on, and we'll keep in touch, and we'll all
right, sure,
hopefully we'll get you on here. You get a win, and we'll get you on here talking about that big win.
That's the next one. I want to get me a trophy in a bad way.
Well, if nothing else, just do it so you can come back on the show.
That's it. I guarantee you.
All right, guys. Well, I'm going to sign off right here. Thanks for tuning in. Big Ed saying, you know what? Thanks for doing that. Bass Angler Magazine, we're trying to make you a better angler. Having guys like Luke on here, and we'll have the next one on soon. So thanks for tuning in.